Hello and welcome to a new Scale 500 news video here on the channel. Yesterday, Herpa had an Instagram live stream, and as always, I was of course watching and noting down all the different things they were saying so that I can give you all the information in this summary reaction video. As always, we start off with some highlights from the live stream where we are listening to what the product manager of the Herpa Wings division had to say. And I have, of course, also some news about models that were mentioned throughout the stream, some that are being made, some that might not be made. But you can find the comprehensive list with all the models mentioned in the video description down below. And you can, of course, also find the link to the original live stream in case you would like to watch the entire thing. Now, to begin with, I had a question for the product manager because Herpa has made a snap-fit model of a Ryanair 737-800 and also recently released a snap-fit model of a Brussels Airlines Airbus A320. And that kind of indicates that they do have the licenses both for Ryanair and for Brussels Airlines. So I was asking them what the possibilities would be for them to make these models in Scale 500. So let's listen to what they had to say about that.
That depends. Ryanair, as usual, is something very, very special. The Ryanair 737 that we have as a snap-fit model is the exact model that we have approval for. We're not even allowed to change anything on that model. And so far, we have not received any further approvals from Ryanair for any further models. As for Brussels, we have done quite a few models for them actually and are working on some additional items for Brussels Airlines, however, currently still exclusively. We are, however, there are new people there, and we hope to find a solution for a retail permission of these items, and then hopefully, of course, 1 to 500 scale, basically the entire range.
I'm not quite sure that I fully understood the explanation about the Ryanair, that they're allowed to make this model but not change anything. Okay, fair enough. But does that mean that they can't do it in Scale 500? If they do the same registration code, everything same, but just in Scale 500, they're not allowed to do that? I guess that's what it means, but yeah. I mean, they clearly have had a contact because they managed to get the permission to make this in SnapFit, so yeah, it's a shame, but maybe sometime in the future. The next topic that we will go into is the topic of delays. Not a new topic for Herpa Wings. They have had it in the past, they have it now, and they will probably also have it in the future. But they did take the question, so let's see what they said about the current situation about the delays, why they have delays, and what they intend to do about it.
We're doing a lot. I think that would take over 2 or 3 hours to give some definite insight into what is going on. It's a lot of different factors that have been slowing things down. I don't really want to get into any details.
Why not go into details? That's the only way we can understand why you have delays.
From very early stages, supply chain issues, in many cases even approval processes, and then all the way through to the end you have the logistics issue. And that is really, in the past, I think I mentioned that a couple of times. When we look back, maybe let's say before the COVID situation, before that everything was pretty much normal in the world for some reason. And we had, for example, the time for the shipping from China or Hong Kong to Germany was 3.5 to 4 weeks. And now in the meantime, if we counted all the time before and after, just loading the container, getting the container to the harbor, getting it loaded actually onto the ship, having the ship go all around Africa, unloading it, waiting for a week or two somewhere in a harbor to get the final 500, 600, 700 kilometers down here to Dietenhofen where we are. That sometimes can take up to 3 months in the meantime. And that is very frustrating for us. Often we do not even get informed about this. We book the container on a certain ship and then all of a sudden, oops, no, we didn't load your container. Oops, sorry, you're going to be on the next one. So I don't really know why it's such a chaos still with the entire shipping situation. But it is what it is. I mean, that's something we definitely cannot influence. And that is the most frustrating part about the delays, actually. Because that's something really where we cannot do anything, we cannot actively do anything against it, but we just have to wait and see and wait on the confirmation from the forwarders. But I keep on saying this, let's just hope the worst is behind us, and it will take some time, of course, to catch up. It's very frustrating for us because we plan a lot more models than we're actually showing. They're actually offering in our new releases brochures. And so we basically, due to all these timing things, have to hold back a lot of items that we're working on. And we just want to get back where we were many years ago, not, well, 2-3 years ago, basically, where we had not just maybe 10 500 scale releases, but 15, 16 releases, 10 200 scale releases and all that. I mean, we do want to get back to have a variety, to be able to offer you just, you know, a very diverse package of new releases each time. And hopefully, bear with us and bear with the world situation. We hope things will get better.
Honestly speaking, I think it's a really frustrating answer. He starts off by saying they do a lot. Then he talks about approval process, but I don't think, especially not with the current release way, where they are announcing models much later than they did in the past. I don't think that we are seeing the impacts of delayed approvals for models. That's why they did introduce this new way of announcing models to basically cover up that part so that we wouldn't see or experience that. But I also don't think that they would have announced models in the past that they didn't have approval for. But then he goes over to the logistics slide and says they have no influence on that whatsoever. And I think the logistics is for sure the main reason why they have these delays. At least the delays that we really experience in form of now they have announced the model and then it doesn't come at the time it was supposed to. But I mean, so what are you actually doing? If you say that the logistics parts you have no influence over whatsoever, then I don't see where you are doing something to make this better. And again, then he goes back to talking about they want to go back to how it was some years ago. I know that he refers to that they want to have larger release batches, but some years ago you also had delays. Also pre-corona you had plenty of delays, also with these larger release batches. So I don't think that's the solution here, really. And I don't think, I'm paraphrasing here, but the good old days where everything was better, I don't think that is correct here. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, yes, they are clearly frustrated with it as well, but I don't see here or hear here how they actually want to do something proactive to change it, and I don't think that is good enough. So then there was, of course, and that was really great, not just that there was the question, but also that they actually did take it, and that was about the prices. We all have experienced Herpa's massive price increases in recent years, and well, what do they have to say about that? Will it continue? What are their plans for the future?
To be honest, we'd love to, but I think if we hear the word deflation instead of inflation, I think we're in general trouble across the board.
I'm sorry. You don't need to have deflation in order to lower your prices. That's nonsense. I'm sorry, just focus on yourself. Don't always focus on, I don't know, whatever, but come on.
We do think that price increases have stopped for the moment. We hope so, but you never know. I mean, there's a lot of talk about tariffs and all that stuff going on. That's something we cannot influence. But inflation, even though inflation is dying down, it still means that prices are going up, which, however, does not mean that our prices are going up. We currently do not see any necessity to increase our prices further. I mean, at least that's partially, hopefully, some good news. But of course, we do see a tendency of airlines to switch now to licensing agreements with royalty payments. Depending on the airlines, on the combination, sometimes we see various royalties stacking up on each model, and we just have to simply see if we can keep it in that certain price range, or if we have to make it that certain model more expensive or not. But in general, we currently do not have any price increases planned.
I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, if it really is true that they don't have any more price increases coming, the last batch, I mean, I think we could argue that there still were some price increases because, or at least some adjustments of prices. But okay, if they say they don't expect more price increases, then I do very much look forward to the release announcements for 0506, because I guess that's when we will find out if what he said is actually true and that they won't have price increases. I think his comment regarding how if they could lower prices is really extremely weak. I just don't buy it. You don't have to have deflation in your economy in order to lower prices. That's nonsense. Yes, licenses, that's the big unknown when we talk about prices, because we have no data whatsoever what companies are charging Herpa or how they are charging Herpa. It sounds like here that they are experiencing more airlines that are starting to charge them and perhaps haven't charged them in the past, but that's pure speculation. But the thing is, in the past, Herpa did also increase their prices, but then in 2021, after they had increased them quite a bit and people were starting to complain, they added more printed details to their models. And they actually said, look, we know we have increased our prices, but we want to give something back, so we give you more printed details on the models. Since then, prices have absolutely skyrocketed and we have gotten nothing in return. And I think that's really the issue. It's not so much that, you know, yeah, it's not nice that they are more expensive, but if you're getting something in return for what you're paying that kind of resembles the value, then it's much easier to live with. And that's where we have the problem here. We are not getting anything in return for what we are paying, or not nearly enough. And I don't think they have acknowledged that yet. And so, yeah, honestly speaking, I'm not happy with that answer. Then there was a question. He did also answer it later in English, but the German answer was much more comprehensive. So I will take the German answer here, but don't worry, I will give you a summary of it. The question was regarding the quality. Herpa is, how can I put it nicely? They seem to have some challenges at the moment, especially when it comes to colors. There it just seems to be more or less random what kind of colors they are putting onto their models. So in the question, the examples that were given were the recently released TUI Embraer E195-E2, where we have massive color issues on the model, and just in general print issues on the model. And then also the Condor A320NEO, which the blue one, where the blue tone is also completely wrong.
Die Farben passen nicht zum Modell. Müssen wir vielleicht noch näher angehen, ob das zum Beispiel das TUI-Blau dann in dem Fall falsch wäre, oder bei Condor vielleicht irgendwas von den Streifen, irgendwas farbliches.
Okay, so he was very hesitant and basically inquired if it perhaps was that perhaps the TUI blue wasn't quite right, and perhaps with the Condor model if there was something with the colored stripes, basically indicating that he doesn't know what he's being asked about here and that he's not aware of any issues. And I'm very sorry, but you are the Wings product manager. There are two scenarios I can see here. Either you actually don't know about it, you don't know about any of these issues that are so very clearly visible to anyone who, well, has bought or looked at these models, Or the second scenario, you are a very good actor and you're just pretending that you don't know about these issues. And I don't know which one is worse. And I'm really sorry, because it's not the first time that we've had questions regarding models where something went wrong and where he has been extremely hesitant to the point of basically saying that he doesn't know any issue. And again, you're the Wings product manager. If anyone should know about these issues, it's you. Sorry, but it's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. So going back to the delays, recently Herpa announced their models that they want to release in 0304 of this year. But since we have so many models delayed from last year, the question here was if they can actually commit to the release period of these models. So let's see what they had to say.
Commit to the merger. We'll really have to see. It's at this time, logistics-wise, it's out of our hands. We are hoping for the best. We want to get these items as quickly as possible onto the market. We want to keep you satisfied, or get you satisfied again, because there have been quite some delays. We want to get less frustrated about these issues, so we're doing what we can, and that's the commitment we can promise you.
So that's not a commitment. I'm really sorry here, but they changed the way they're announcing models. In the past, they were announcing models almost 6 months in advance, and that never worked out for them. Then they changed it to what pretty much all other manufacturers are doing, to announce the models only 1, maximum 2 months in advance. And that was, of course, in order to minimize the delays, or, well, maybe not minimize the delays, but basically cover it up, which means because they are announcing the models much closer to the actual release, they can make sure that they're only announcing the models where they are sure that they can meet the deadline. But now he's just openly acknowledging, well, we've made the announcements, but we have no idea if we will actually make it. So what is the point of the new announcement way? I mean, if you can't even commit to that, what can you commit to? Now, I know I've been very critical here, but I don't want to dismiss the fact that they're actually doing the live stream again and also taking these kind of questions, which is good. I don't always have to be happy about the answers, but the fact that they are taking questions and are answering, that is good and commendable, and they have to be praised for that. And I really, really hope that they will continue to do so, because it is the right and a good step. But now there was a funny moment in this live stream, because they were actually asked, well, could I order kind of a custom model at Herpa and you make it for me? It was only answered in German. But let's just quickly listen to it, and I will then give you a translated answer.
Wir machen keine Einzelanfertigungen. Wir haben gewisse Mindeststückzahlen, und die liegen ja doch in einem Bereich von einigen 100 Stück. Also das können wir so nicht anbieten. Da sind wir einfach nicht aufgestellt für solche Sachen. Also da.
So basically, what he says here, or explains here, is that they do kind of custom models. I mean, you can, as a company, for example, go and say, could you make me a model with my company logo on it? But they're only doing that in a couple of 100 models. They're not making like tiny, small productions of maybe 1, 2, or maybe 10 models. So he's basically saying that this kind of service they don't have, but now it gets really funny.
Ich weiß, dass es, fällt der Name nicht ein, gibt es 1 oder 2 super coole Spezialisten in diesem Custom-Bereich. Sieht man auch bei den Börsen. Die machen sehr, sehr geile Sachen.
He says, well, if you want to have like a few models, custom models, then go to the custom model makers. There are some cool people out there that do really nice models. That's basically what he said here, also referring to some of those that are showing up at collectors' fairs. I really find it funny because, you know, Herpa is quite determined not to release any white or albino models, because they always say, I mean, there seems to be some licensing issue in doing that, apparently, but they do also say that one of the reasons why they don't want to make albino models is because they then don't know what happens with the models afterwards, what people will do with these models. I mean, it's quite obvious. Most of albino models would end up as custom models having some other decals applied. And they say they are worried about some legal factors, what would happen with these models afterwards. But here he is referring directly to custom model makers who are taking Herpa models, removing the prints and then adding decals. I did not see that coming. So those were all the bits and pieces from the Instagram live stream that I thought were worth highlighting, listening to. But of course, there were quite a few more things mentioned in the live stream. And don't worry, I will give you a comprehensive update right now. And of course, you can find the entire list of models mentioned in the live stream in the video description below. There was a question regarding Royal Jordanian, the Embraer E195 and the A320NEO. The answer was here basically hopefully yes. Many other models will be made before that, but it seems to be more a question of time than if. Helvetic E195-E2, and he basically also here said that it's not a question of if, but just when. So we can expect the Helvetic to appear at some point. I hope this year, but let's see. ITA Airways models, there are more planned, but it depends also on the airline, what they kind of wish here. But they are apparently working on more models here in the future. Then there was a question regarding Wizzair models. Herpa has of course talked about it in the past. They had the release of the A320, and at that point they actually also talked about that they would make all other aircraft types in the Wizzair fleet. But so far we haven't seen anything since then. And also here it now sounded like yes, it will come, but it's not the first priority. So there are quite a few other models that will be released before we will see the next Wizzair release. But he said hopefully there will be at least one this year. So perhaps in the later stages of 2025 we can see a new Wizzair model. Then there was a question regarding Austrian Airlines A321NEO, and the answer was here that in general, yes, there will be more Austrian Airlines models released. However, it did not sound like the A321NEO would be the first model to be made. Then there were quite a few questions regarding Condor, and there are definitely more models to come. They have already in the past already announced that they are basically trying to do all Condor aircraft and liveries. And that of course does include the Boeing 757-300 in the 0304 release batch. We've seen now for the first time in a very, very long time a 757-300 being announced. That's with a special livery of Iceland Air, but it does of course mean they have now reactivated the mold, so it is just around the corner. So they are, as I said, expecting to make all aircraft types and all liveries. That does include the A320 in this pink livery that Condor has recently introduced. However, that apparently requires some additional licenses, so that's maybe taking a little bit longer, but even that model is supposed to be coming at some point. Then there was questions regarding Eurowings A320 standard livery. Now, they have, of course, also in the 0304 release announcements added a A320NEO of Eurowings in the standard livery, and it wasn't quite clear if they were basically saying that that is the model that is coming, or if there will actually be an A320CEO, so a re-release of that model. So we will see, but the NEO is, of course, already announced that will be coming. Then there was a question regarding turboprop models in general, and what was quite interesting here was that they actually picked up on the Saab 2000, a model that has never been made in scale 500, but he himself picked up on the Saab 2000, talking about that it wasn't an aircraft that had been produced in large quantities, but that there were quite a few, of course, leaving passenger service. There aren't that many in the passenger service left anymore, but being converted to freighters, and that perhaps could be something for the future. So I actually think that could be quite cool if they're actually doing a Saab 2000 mold making some freighters, but they could also make some maybe at that point historic airliner models. So let's see, maybe we will be blessed with a completely new mold in Scale 500 at some point. Then there was the question regarding Korean Air and Asiana, both in passenger versions and in freighter versions, so Korean Air and Korean Air Cargo, Asiana and Asiana Cargo. Anything Korean Air, don't expect anything anytime soon. That seems very unlikely to happen. However, the Asiana license is still active for Herpa wings, so there is a good possibility that we can see something. I think an Asiana Cargo 747 could be a really cool release, but let's see when that will happen. But Asiana seems quite likely. Then a repeating question in seemingly all live streams is about the Norwegian airline Wizzair, and I do fully understand why, because it's a really interesting airline with a nice livery. They of course have Dash 8Q 400s and also 300s, I think even the 100, but they do also operate the Embraer E2. So quite a few have been inquiring about that. So what they said here is that they are in contact with the airline, but there is still nothing really to be announced here. So it doesn't really sound like they have been having much success in their talks with the airline. So again, also here, I don't think we should expect anything anytime soon, but it is a project that they're kind of working on. Then there was a question regarding the Avianca A320NEO. And the answer was here that there is more Avianca coming, but he didn't really go into the A320NEO request, so I would expect perhaps a different aircraft type, at least as the next Avianca model. But let's see. Then there were some questions regarding a 737 variant, the P8 Poseidon. And the answer was quite funny here, because they basically said that there are so many tiny details on this aircraft model that it would basically require a rework of the mold. And yeah, really the amount of details here being a challenge, which I find is quite funny when you know that Herpa has the company slogan, "Details are our passion." So if they are your passion, make the P8 Poseidon. Air India was also a hot topic in this live stream, and they seem to be in contact with the airline and are currently developing quite a few models, it sounded like. But when something actually can be released, that, well, they didn't say anything about. So hopefully soon, but let's see. Then, of course, Play was also again asked about the A320 or A321, and the answer was here that they are in contact, but they are still waiting for a final green light from the airline. So also here, no real news. Then an interesting question was about the Swiss A350. Apparently, according to Herpa, they are the only company holding a license to make Swiss Air models. I didn't know that, but that's according to Herpa, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. But it does mean that they will, of course, make pretty much all aircraft types in the Swiss Air fleet, and that does mean that when the A350 is delivered to Swiss Air, they will most likely, if not almost, yeah, for sure, make this model as well. So that's pretty much a no-brainer. Yes, the Swiss A350 in scale 500 from Herpa Wings will be a thing in the future, as well as a Bulgaria Air A220. Now, here the question is, will it be the 100 or 300 variant? They did not specify, but there will be coming something from Bulgaria Air in the future. And there will also be coming something from Tarom at some point. Here both ATR and 737 was basically, I mean, almost confirmed. He did himself mention that both aircraft types were something they're looking into. Then there is, of course, the Norwegian airline Norse, who are flying with 787s across the world. And here the news was that they are in contact. I don't think they were last time they had a live stream, so I guess that's progress. But they still have no news from the airline itself. So also here, I would not expect a Norse 787 to hit the shelves in 2025. Maybe if you're lucky and the company still exists in 2026. we can perhaps see that model in scale 500. And then last but not least, of course, there was also again a question regarding GSE in general, and as they said here, they are working on releasing more old sets, so re-releasing sets where they're then modifying the colors that they used on these items. So basically what we have seen here recently with the trucks set they had, where they switched colors around a little bit. So something like that we can expect with more older sets that we have seen in the past, that they will be re-released. But also here again, it didn't seem like the biggest priority, which I really don't understand. If we are lucky, we might get one set this year. I don't expect to see much more from Herpa Wings in 2025. Now, that's all the things I wanted to highlight from the live stream. As I said, a comprehensive list of all the models that were talked about and mentioned, and what Herpa answered about these things, you can find in the list that is in the video description below. Now, what do you think about all these news from Herpa Wings? Let me know in the comment section below. Let's have a nice conversation going down there. And if you like this type of content and would like to see more of it in the future, then be sure to leave a like. If you are new around here, why not hit subscribe with that? Thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.